Worthing. You had me 5 seconds in. What are we all doing? What are you doing sitting there? Get yourself down to Worthing and get a piece of that lifestyle that you've always dreamed of. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sitematch365, coming to you today from Worthing and brought to you today by our friends at Wilmot Dixon. My name is Toby Fox and I'm the Managing Director at 3Fox, the marketing agency for councils. And since lockdown, we've been providing our network of councils and investors and developers and their advisors with two key channels to keep them all connected. One of those channels is the Voice of Authority, and that's back next Thursday when we'll be asking councils building homes, what next? That'll be analysing the extent and variety of council house building programmes and considering where and how that might be extended, and suggesting the next round of invaluable research to be conducted by Dr. Janice Morford, visiting professor in the Bartlett School of Planning at University College London. If you're looking to work with council development companies or to find out the scale of their activity, you can't miss that one. And you can register for it and watch all the videos from all our other sessions at thevoiceofauthority.co.uk. Our other channel is Sitematch365, designed to support councils who are open for business. Many of you will have attended Sitematch London, which was an event taking place annually since 2012 and hosting about 50 public sector landowners every year. Each of those organisations spent the day hosting 15-minute meetings with developers and investors and influencers, and the event had some great outcomes in terms of relationships started and nurtured to the point of investment and delivery in dozens of boroughs. But the one overwhelming disadvantage of that model is that if a council or developer isn't available on that single day, then they miss out. So while lockdown and COVID has meant we can't all meet together in one room, it has provided an opportunity, and that's for councils to select the day they're available, to provide a free-to-view briefing on their opportunities and what developers can expect when doing business with them. And any developers or investors who can't make that session can access a video of the briefing anytime at sitematch365.com. And then you can email my colleague and make use of some of the time that's been allocated by the council, in this case a week tomorrow, to host 15-minute meetings one-to-one online. Our hope is that this new Sitematch365 platform will make it easier for the development community to play its part in getting the UK economy back on the road to recovery. And we look forward to working with you all with that aim. Now, Sitematch365 has been designed specifically to support councils that are open for business, that are pro-growth and keen to engage with the investment community. So clearly, it was only a matter of time before we came to Worthing, a town that we've marked for several years now as a progressive and up-and-coming opportunity. And that opportunity just got really compelling. Okay, the pandemic and the spectre of Brexit mean that investors are cautious, but if anyone can speak of positives in the current environment, then it's a seaside town within striking distance of both London and Brighton and Hove, with values perhaps a third lower, but attracting increasing numbers of young families, often creatives, who want to work from home in a more life-affirming environment. Now is Worthing's time, or as the Times promotional campaign has it, it's time for Worthing. I read only yesterday of some new research that indicated that 31% increase, there's been a 31% increase in the number of Londoners who are looking for jobs outside London. And towns like Worthing can only benefit from that sort of trend. So let's dig into all this a little deeper and discover what Worthing's got to offer from some people lucky enough to work there. Later in the session, we're going to hear the private sector view from Russell Miller, director at Wilmot Dixon, which has been very active in the borough. And before that, we're going to hear from the council. Lastly, we're going to hear from Cian Cronin, who's head of major projects and investment, and he's going to reveal what's new in terms of public and private sector investments in Worthing. Before that, we're going to hear from Andy Willems, who's head of place and economy, about the public realm investment and the economic response to COVID-19. Andy's going to follow director of economy, Martin Randall, who's going to explain for us how the council's new outlook and new team has created a red carpet service for investors and developers who can match the council's ambitions for its residents in terms of design quality and innovation. But first, we're going to set the scene, and we need to convince you when we're doing that, viewers, that this is a council you can do business with. So we're going to start right at the top with the leader of Worthing Borough Council, Councillor Daniel Humphreys. Dan, could you set out the key facts for us, please? What do developers and investors need to know about your town?
Well, I think the first thing to do is thank you for the opportunity to do this, and then and I'm going to start off by talking about me a tiny little bit. I'm the leader of Worthing Borough Council, so an elected politician here, and have been the leader of the council for about 5 years. But the reason I want to talk about me a little bit is I'm not from Worthing. I'm an example of someone who has moved to Worthing for that better quality of life. My wife and I have actually lived in different parts of this country and other countries. We lived in Sydney for a couple of years. And upon coming back, we settled on the south coast, looking for that good quality of life that you've already been talking about, and those opportunities for that. We originally tried a bigger place, a few miles to the east, but actually found that Worthing was a fantastic place in which to start raising our family, to have all these opportunities for a great lifestyle, and that is only getting better and better at the moment. And what we're finding and what we're seeing and what's demonstrably happening is a real shift in the demographics in the town. We are now seeing a sort of more youthful, both in actual age, but also in outlook, a more youthful town, a more dynamic sort of town, and we're really experiencing the benefits to that. And that again is really expanding all those different sort of lifestyle opportunities with the water sports, the cultural opportunities, both in our theatres and which our private sector are offering around the town with new new leisure opportunities there. And I think that's a real challenge to people's perception of perhaps not just Worthing, but a lot of South Coast towns, which historically may have been more known as a place that people came for a week in the middle of summer and then came to retire later on in their life. Well, of course, now that's really not the case. That is changing. People are seeing something very different in Worthing, and I can tell you just by the explosion in the number of school places that the council has had to provide, there is something very different happening here in the town. My wife and I are not the sole examples of people who have spotted that this is a place in which to come and live, work, raise families, and do something different in. And then, of course, there's the advantages that Worthing's always had, that seaside location, but those easy links to other parts of the southeast, and of course London. Still, despite COVID, the dynamic hub in the Western world, and we're right there on the doorstep of London Gatwick Airport and other critical bits of infrastructure down here in the southeast, and we're absolutely linked in as a council, as Worthing Borough Council, under my leadership, and with these great officers that we've got here with us today, going to support you, absolutely linked in with the economic development that's going on more broadly, with our involvement in bodies like the new Transport for the Southeast body and others, about how we link up with other parts of the region to make things better and better all the time. For people down here, so looking at the rail, the roads, and other absolutely vital infrastructure. I'm currently the chairman of the Greater Brighton Economic Board, working across partnerships. We don't just work in a sort of in a council boundary determined area. We are working with partners right across, and we're seeing some massive benefits to that. And I have a board on the Local Enterprise Partnership for the Southeast, for our region, for Coastal Capital, working with the other LEPs in the area, which again, absolutely critical for a lot of the investment we've been getting in. And in the last 5 years, we have got a lot of investment in. We want more. And that's why we're here today. But some of those critical investments, Martin's going to take you through in a minute. Things like the new Bayside development, which used to be the size of our leisure centre. We've got a brand new leisure centre, and now we've got a brand new, genuinely iconic seafront living opportunity down there. Elsewhere in the town, some formerly derelict sites are being redeveloped for office and living space and for other leisure opportunities. And we are, through help with the links with those organisations I've already mentioned, we are now the first town along the south coast and in the wider southeast to have full fibre broadband throughout the town, that ultra fast broadband, which other parts of the UK perhaps a little bit behind on. We have, and we don't just have the infrastructure. I think what marks us out on that one is we have the know-how within our organisation and our wider networks about how to absolutely utilise that. And it's a genuinely exciting time for people like me, or people who are like I was 10 years ago, maybe, who are coming to find a new place to live and new opportunities for. We're massively proud of that, and I know Martin will take you through some of those nuts and bolts now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. And can we just confirm this is Worthing and not Sydney? Is that correct?
We are in Worthing, but there's some remarkable similarities, I can tell you.
Great stuff. Okay, Martin Randall, Director for the Economy. Well, tell us a bit about your new team and your new proactive outlook, and take us through your story.
Yes, thanks very much, Toby. And just taking my lead from Dan there, it is very much a welcome opportunity to talk about Worthing to you this morning. So welcome everybody, and great not to see you. But to be able to have this opportunity to talk about our place. I think Andy and Kian are going to get more granular around the specific opportunities. My job today is really to sort of highlight that we have a dynamic team here that is interested in talking to you. Very often I say that our first job as a local authority when it comes to development is about sort of not getting in the way. That doesn't mean that we're complacent or passive, but it's a signal, I hope, to you all that we're prepared to step up, work in partnership, and make the appropriate interventions to get things to happen. So around 3-4 years ago, we thought we would begin putting ourselves on the map by preparing a prospectus. A nice, short, punchy message really ties in with Dan's message. Worthing is great. If you haven't been here, I'd certainly encourage you to come because it's terrific. It's a gem on the South Coast. We've geared up our team to be proactive. So we very deliberately, Toby and everybody listening, have a team that is geared towards investment in our place. And Andy Willems will be telling you about that. And a team which is directed towards securing the redevelopment of the major development sites that are available. And Kian will be majoring on that. I feel that what we've done over the last 4 years, whether it's investors coming to us, with an idea, or indeed the prospect of a partnership, we've demonstrated our ability to work as a trusted partner. And hopefully, Russell will affirm that when we come on to that, later on. And there are, I know, a number of you out there who will have had direct experience of that. We've shown innovation. We know that that development, it's not just a case of saying, this is a wonderful place, come on down. There's some raw data here that makes development sites tick. We've learned an awful lot about the mechanics and the financial mechanics of development sites, to make sure that they get away. So we feel that we can have intelligent conversations with you around, that classic development appraisal sheet, the things that actually make bricks and mortar appear from the ground, as it were. So we're trying to create that environment with the people that we hire and the people that are in our teams and the people that will bluntly, greet you from the railway station if that's the way you arrive, or indeed, welcome you when you get here to the offices in Worthing. A couple of examples, I suppose, if I may move on. And Dan alluded to the first one that goes, beyond our vision that you can see there. We haven't got the palm trees yet, by the way, but they're on order. I wanted to show you an example of the fact that we're not afraid of determining large, high-density planning applications, and none come much bigger than this one. This is the former Teville Gate site. This is right next to Worthing Railway Station. You're looking at 365 new homes, and it's not an artist's impression without substance. It actually has planning permission. So there's a developer that's come in with an ambitious scheme, and that axiometric that you can see demonstrates that we can get that site away through our planning processes. We can go to our next image. There's an example of some of the architecture that accompanies that scheme. But it's great for me to sit here and say, well, jam tomorrow, here's something actually being built on that site. This is an example of us, competing for a brand new digital hub for HMRC. HMRC have moved to a national model. We're delighted to be hosting the digital hub in the town. And that's an example of working with a private developer and a large public agency, to put our place at the forefront. And this is going to bring 800 jobs to Worthing. It's immediately adjacent to Worthing Station. It's part of that larger site I just showed you on the axiometric. So we're delighted with this, and it's lovely to see it being built. And there it is again, an alternative view. Artist impressions are lovely, but bricks and mortar on the ground are even lovelier, we find. And then just in terms of our ambition, I wanted to show you this. So this is an artist's impression of the scheme that Dan mentioned. This is Bayside on the seafront next to our iconic new swimming pool and leisure centre. I'm deliberately showing you an artist's impression so I can flick to the next slide, which shows you it being built. This building will be substantively complete by the end of the year. We think it's fantastic. If you really, like me, love a curvy balcony, there's one designed by Allies and Morrison to support this particular developer, Roffey Homes, in a hugely ambitious scheme. And I want to invite you at that point to sort of perhaps park some of your sort of perception of what Worthing might be about and reflect on those images in particular as a very strong signal of our ambition. The evidence for the fact that we have a supportive and proactive team is now before you, without piling pressure on my colleagues. It's a delight to be working with them. So I'll hand you over to Andy, I think, via you, Toby.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. And surely it's only a matter of time before Bayside Apartments are referred to as the Pancake Building. It's fantastic. It resembles a big pile of pancakes and makes me feel hungry all over again. But lovely schemes there, and really nice to see projects actually underway, particularly after looking at the prospectus date at the beginning, to see that there's been progress since 2016 when those visions were first starting to be articulated. Andy, I understand that a lot of Worthing's ambition, it is putting its money where its mouth is. So can you talk us a little bit about the council's investments?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Toby. And to take the advantage of a little bit about me, and conversely to Dan, is I'm born and bred Worthing. I went away for a little bit, come back, but I think having the passion and the drive to actually make up my place, which it is my place, even better. I think conversely kind of adds value, I think. So in terms of where we're doing, we were going to do, what we were hoping is we were going to have one of our businesses to come on and present. But I'm delighted to say that they're busy refitting their new store, which will open in a couple of months' time. But in terms of where we're putting our investment, so beyond the sites that Cian will talk you through, we're very, very aware that investing in place is obviously absolutely critical. And we are, with our colleagues at West Sussex County Council, investing in our public realm. We, again, aligned with the investment prospectus. We took the decision very, very early that we needed to look at our new public realm, and we've got a series of public realm improvements throughout Worthing, which mirrors against the major sites that Cian will talk about, to really upgrade, improve our areas. And we took this decision, not, I suppose, with a highways view, but very much from a user-centred person point of view. So how are people going to experience our places? How are people through our new developments going to come into our town centre and actually experience something very, very different and something very, very more advantageous for them? So as you can see here, this is just one of our 8 schemes. We've got 2 in train at the moment, with hopefully a 3rd next year. And as you can see on the right-hand side here, at the moment, one of our areas, which is slap bang right in the middle of our town centre and interconnects with the train station and the seafront, we've got a very much a traditional, underused, cluttered public area, which we want to transform on the left-hand side into a much more user-friendly user space. Very much looking at increasing dwell time, very much looking at increasing user experience. Martin mentioned, concept designs. We have, but what I'm pleased to say is this will be on the ground, being developed, being constructed in the early part of next year, so first quarter of next year. In terms of investing in infrastructure, Dan's already briefly mentioned it in terms of the fibre, and I'll come on to that. But the other thing that we know is looking at our landing points into our areas and making sure that those landing points are as good as they can be. So the other things that we're looking at is investing in our upgrading our parking infrastructure, our provision, and looking at those kind of destination points where people land, and therefore changing that perception of Worthing again. Dan's already mentioned it in terms of full fibre network. We have put our money where our mouth is in terms of 2.5 million from the councils, and that actually essentially unlocked a 25 million pound investment from City Fibre into our places. And again, I'm pleased to say that I think we've passed something like now 9,000 homes in the borough in terms of the fibre technology. So this isn't something that we can talk about, it's something that's actually happening right now. What's delightful about that as well is that provides us with the actual infrastructure to put in things such as citizens' Wi-Fi, digital technology, smart city stuff, etc., to again increase that experience. And then something slightly a little bit different. We have the luxurious position, I think, of having our blue spaces. We have a fantastic seafront, and as well as obviously the sites that Cian will talk you through, we really look at some interesting stuff on our seafront as well. I always boast about this, and I will. You know, you saw it in the clip at the start. We brought a 46-metre observation wheel to town last year, which has been the biggest one ever on the South Coast. But equally, we're looking at how do we develop our seafront, and actually how does the seafront interact with our town and our borough to make it you know, even better than it is at the moment. We've got the Pier of the Year, etc. So how do we develop our seafront? And there's some really interesting opportunities coming up on our seafront as well. We've got mobile concessions, pop-up businesses, but equally we've got some really fantastic permanent sites right on our seafront that, as I say, will hopefully interplay with our work around the town centres. And that for me, Toby, is kind of a real kind of snippet in terms of other stuff that we're doing outside of the major sites, which we feel are even more important. And finally, to say, we have got a world famous tour that if you do come and you want to just have a chat with us, we're more than happy to take you around Worthing and see what we've got.
Great stuff, Andy. Thanks very much. I've benefited from that tour. I enjoyed it very much indeed, and recommend it to any of our viewers. Speaking of the viewers, we've got some questions coming in from George Farley, from Simon Matthews. Please keep them coming. We'll do our best to put questions to the panel at the end of this session. And of course, if we run out of time, all you have to do is contact my colleague, and you can book a meeting a week tomorrow with the council. Now, we've got the context. But what are the key opportunities? What is it we're here to really get our teeth into? Let's ask Cian Cronin, Head of Major Projects and Investments, to reveal all. Cian, what have you got for our investors? What's on the table for dinner?
Thanks, Toby. Hello, everyone. My name is Cian Cronin. I'm Head of Major Projects and Investment for the councils. What I do is I work with a team of really fantastic development managers, commercial surveyors, and project managers who make all of our projects and developments happen. That team it's a pretty exciting bunch. They have a real appetite for risk, for taking on projects, and frankly, for driving ahead and getting things done. This isn't your old-fashioned council property team at all. Our business model is simple, and it's very similar to pretty much every other council or pretty much every other private sector development team. We get involved in regeneration and development, either direct delivery or in partnership. We secondly try to add value to land and assets and trade these assets. And thirdly, we have an investment portfolio that's primarily focused on revenue. So we also built a hold for that investment portfolio. At the moment, we have a huge example. We have 104 homes in site. We have 60 more with planning consent. And we're in the planning process for nearly just shy of 520 homes. So this is a team that's really driving on and getting things done. I think Martin Randall and Councillor Humphreys touched on it at the top of the meeting. Whether it's the example of Bayside, whether it's our Union Place planning application. We recently, 2 weeks ago, got planning permission for a 6,500 square metre health building on the council's car park. This is a place where we're really driving forward, using our assets cleverly. We get that things done simply because our politics is really, really clear. Our politicians are aligned on what they want to happen from the area. And this clear leadership filters down and makes it easy for me and my team to drive ahead and get things done.
Fantastic. I mean, the sound of the waves, just to finish us off there and take us straight to your shores, Kian. And just for any viewers who might have been confused by the caption that said town centre development opportunities with a picture of the pier. The pier isn't the town centre. It's just that we can't show enough pictures of the sea. I spent the last best part of 20 years now looking at the seaside as being a huge kind of disadvantage to economies, hobbling them by taking up 50% of the economic region. But with our new perspectives with COVID-19, it's become a huge attractor. So we're showing the sea as often as we possibly can. Kian.
Thanks. So it's probably worth stepping back a tiny bit and just talking about our stakeholders and who we want to work with, because if anyone wants to come and work with us, work with my team, or to work with the town, it's important to understand where we're trying to create value. The people we're trying to create value for are frankly the people of the town and our local communities, any partners we're working with, and our investors. So for our people and our communities, the focus is on creating social and economic value, whether that's jobs, places to invest, or a better town centre. And we're really clear that when we're getting involved in something, that side of value creation has to be there. That social and economic value that's making the town better or creating a better experience for the people who live here. It's really, really important to us. Having said that, we're also really, really clear about creating sustainable commercial value for shareholders. In my sense, my shareholders are our councillors. If we're working with a JV partner, they will have investors, they will have banks or other people to make that value. We're not blind to it. It has to be both that social and economic with the sustainable commercial value. We're not looking to extract too much. We want to do it in partnership. These two things need to work together. Our development ops were shown primarily in that video. The first thing I want to say is that our team are getting out there and we're trying to solve the problems. We're not sitting back expecting the partner to come in and solve everything. So in terms of Grafton, if you look at that, it's one of the best sites on the south coast. It's right on the seafront. It's opposite the Lido. You can see the pier, and you can see west of Littlehampton and east of the cliffs at Seven Sisters. It's an absolutely terrific place, and I'd welcome anyone to come down, climb the stairs up, and have a look east and west and say this is not a terrific site. You see from that Bayside development to the east, land values there, they're selling for between £580 and £600 a square foot. So there's real commercial value to be taken out of this site. It's also a really, really nice placemaking challenge. It sits on the northern side between Montague Street, which is our main high street drag, and the seafront. It's visible from three sides. And in terms of creating a place, unlocking some clever mixed-use development, probably housing-led mixed-use development. If you like a development challenge, that's really the one to get to muck in on. It's the first one you think of the morning as the best site and the best opportunity we have. I also want to talk about our Union Place site. This is one where we're in there and we're trying to unlock value and we're trying to solve the problems already. We have an outline application in to just clarify what can be built in it. We want to de-risk the project, make it really, really clear about what the council is trying to develop. We have a planning application in at the moment. It's going to planning committee on the 4th of November for 169 homes, a cinema extension, some parking, and a new hotel with some commercial space. We're quite clear in this. It's cleverly designed. It's not the all mixed use into one building. We understand the challenges around funding and the challenges around securing assets for mixed use development. So it's designed to be phased, and it's designed so that when we bring in a partner, that the funding and the banks will work with the scheme. It's a well-designed scheme. It's also key for the town. It's a place where people need to come to, and it's right on the kind of very visible site at the front. We've done a lot of hard work there. We've done site assembly, ploughing in over £7 million, buying land, whether it's in 2 existing car parks, and buying some land that had been held and stuck by developers for quite a long time. We're really committed to getting that over the line, really committed to driving it forward. And that outline planning consent establishes a height of up to 14 stories on it and sets out the real clear planning parameters for it. And we're really confident that when we go to market, either for sale or for joint venture, that it's something that is well designed and primed so that a commercial partner can come in, optimize it, make it fit their business model, and really drive it forward at pace. The third site that I really want to talk about is Decoy Farm. This is a classic example of a stuck council-owned site. it's a former tip site, and it's been lying about for about 35 years. It's always been in the too difficult to manage pile. What we have done is we've brought in some money from the LEP, just under £5 million, and we're about to let a contract next week, next Friday actually. Sorry, bids are due next Friday, to remediate that land, to clean it up. We've always recognised that we were asking too much of the private sector to say, do you want to develop this sign? We recognise that we need to put our money where our mouth is. We're solving the problem, getting it remediated, and frankly, it's going to go to market at some stage in the new year with that land clean and remediated, with a clear planning framework, and with a council that's in there, knows the site and working to get it delivered. It's also a development for logistics and industrial in an area that is really constrained for this kind of stuff. And the prices we're able to achieve off logistics, so we're probably between £8 and £11 a square foot, depending on what's going in there, which for sheds development is really, really attractive. There was a question in the chat around how we want to work with people. I'll be really clear. I hate ODU. I hate getting stuck into nasty procurement things. I want to work with partners who understand our business model. It's why I talked about our stakeholders. It's why I talked about what social and economic value we want to get. We don't want to spend hours and hours sitting down with lawyers. We want to work with people who have the same values as us, who look at these sites in the same way as us, and really want to unlock some problems and create value for everyone, whether that's social, economic, or sustainable commercial value for partners. I've talked about my team at the start. I can't speak more highly of them, and we'll really look forward to speaking with you, to getting some boots on the ground, get a high vis on, having a walk around. I can only show you a video once, but if you want to come down once this lockdown stuff ends, happily give you a tour, show you the sites, get a smell, get a feel for the place, and I'm sure you'll hop back on the train or back into your car and go back home excited about what we have. Really happy to talk to you, and really look forward to meeting you someday on the street, getting a coffee together, and showing you what we're all about. Toby,
fantastic. Cian, thank you very much indeed. And James Butler, in answer to your question, yeah, the video is going to be available to you. We'll be putting it out through social media channels and making sure that all attendees today get a link to it. But in the meantime, let's just go back to a key phrase there. I hope I'm not misquoting you, Cian. I hate ODU. I want to work with partners who understand our business model, who have the same values as us and want to unlock value like us. So these are rare statements in working with local authorities around the country, and have a great deal of value in the private sector. Now let's turn to the private sector. This is the council talking a good game. What's the view from your point of view at Wilmot Dixon, Russell Miller?
Thanks, Toby. Yeah, good morning. My name's Russell Miller from Wilmot Dixon. I'll start on Daniel and Andy's theme. I am a Sussex man, although not Worthing. I live just north of Worthing. And I quite often come into Worthing, walk along the seafront that Andy's shown, walking the dog, and I actually end up at the Bayside development, because at the back of there is a very, very good fish and chip shop. So yeah, it's a lovely walk. So I was going to start on just talk about the extent of our work, recent work with Worthing. And I'll start, if I may, with just putting in some context from a business point of view. We are a national company, and our London and South office is in Weybridge, and we cover South London, Surrey, Kent and Sussex. But at the start of 2019, we opened a regional office in Gatwick, primarily to focus on the Sussex area, with myself as director there. And the reason we did this is that we see Sussex as being a real area for growth and opportunity. So then when you look at Sussex itself, Worthing and surrounding areas is certainly an area that stands out for us. Historically, with a number of quality projects that we've delivered recently, but as well as the future projects, which we've seen today, clearly seen today. So I'll just touch on a few of the projects that we've done recently in the area, just to show you the sort of level of work. Bow Hunt School, which is just off the Broadwater Road as you drive into Worthing there, 900 pupil academy that we finished in 2016. The Little Hampton Wave, the new leisure centre and pool. We completed that recently, 2019, a fantastic project. But I suppose more relevantly is the office development we did at the old Ada Civic Centre, working with Worthing. Now, this was an interesting project, and it really shows the innovation that I think Kean was talking about, where the council were acting as developer. We were the construction partner, and that office has been leased out to a local company, now creating lots of opportunity, lots of jobs in the local area. We're also just about to start working at Worthing Hospital as well in the next couple of weeks in the UI unit, so looking forward to starting there. But what we've also been doing is working with the council, looking at sort of feasibilities. In terms of, I think Andy touched on it, we looked at the car park facility and how innovative ways of improving that, and also the leisure offering as well. And you know, really looking at some great ways of how this could be funded and delivered. So yeah, we've had a lot of work working in the local area, and really enjoyed it. It's really an innovative sort of way of approaching work.
Russell, I'm going to come back to you on that in just a second, but can we just hop back to Dan Humphreys? Dan, could you give our viewers, just in case there's a little bit of confusion, an understanding of the difference between Worthing and Adder and Worthing?
Well, the key difference there is that you can pronounce Worthing and you can't pronounce Ada.
I've been given it 3 different ways in the last 2 weeks.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. So, well, no, look, the big Worthing is a town. It is its own distinct place. Ada next door, it's a fantastic council served by fantastic officers, the same officers we use. It's a collection of small towns and villages in the same place. I'd say there are some real opportunities there for people in Ada. It's part of our Greater Brighton network. We would love you to come down and look at areas around Worthing as well as Worthing. But for the purposes of this, we think Worthing culturally, in terms of some of the opportunities there, we do stand out, we believe, locally at the moment, above and beyond some of our areas, which are fantastic as well.
Thank you very much indeed, Dan. Russell, coming back to you then, give us a little bit of your experience of working with Worthing Council and in Worthing as a place to invest. What are the particularities about this place?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the location, if I just look at the location to start with, I suppose anyone who knows Sussex knows that the infrastructure probably could be better in terms of the road network. However, I think Worthing's well served by the A24 and the rail links that we talked about earlier in London. So we have a local and extensive, varied supply chain around the area. So there's no real problem that we find with labour, skilled labour and material supply. So yeah, it's a good place to work and an easy place to work as well. And then actually working with Worthing themselves, we as a business, we like to work with like-minded customers that share our values and our culture, and Worthing certainly tick that box. As a business, we are problem-solving and solution-seeking business, and for this you need an open-minded and innovative customer. And again, Worthing certainly that. So yeah, we see Worthing as a very ambitious, forward-thinking partner that really focus on improving the local area and creating that opportunity. And I think one of the great things about working with Worthing, and Martin's touched on it, is that it feels like a real partnership when you work with Worthing, and that's really important to us.
Great stuff, Russell. Thanks very much. And I guess my piece of advice to anyone that was looking for a regional office to service Sussex from would be, don't open it in Gatwick, open it in Worthing. What advice have you got for developers, investors who are looking at Worthing as a potential place to invest? What advice would you pass on?
I suppose what you should look at Worthing, and how we look at Worthing, is that an area of a lot of opportunity. And I talked about that earlier when I said when we focus on Sussex, you can really see that in Worthing. And what we like about the opportunities is it's varied as well, as in varied sectors, residential, healthcare, care homes, leisure. There's a real mixed bag there. As a location, I've talked, it's a great location, local supply chain, and a trained and skilled labour force. But more importantly, and Kieran's Cian's talked about this, that in Worthing Council, these opportunities that are there, that are clearly there, are supported by an ambitious and innovative and a really supportive local authority. So for us, it really feels like a place that's open for business.
Great stuff. Thanks very much indeed, Russell. That's much appreciated. You've done us proud. Just in case any viewers have got any confusion about the dates, I've been talking about an opportunity to meet with the council and their top team. The dates for those meetings is Friday the 9th of October. My colleague Agnes has put those details in the chat, so you can respond to her there, or indeed by emailing her directly. But we've got time now for a few questions from the audience, and I'm going to start with George Farley's original question, the first one that came in, because I think this is a sort of an area of real interest in the development community at the moment. What's the council doing to help people with learning or physical disabilities, and also, I guess, older residents that need purpose-built and affordable homes? Who'd like to pick up on that? Councillor Humphreys, have you got a view?
So I'm going to defer to officers to talk about JVs and things like that, if I can, please. Martin.
Yeah, and I think just picking on George's question, there's certainly something here around sort of making sure that when we deliver development, either directly or in partnership, we're setting the exemplar standard. So, we've got a very keen idea, as you've heard from Dan and my colleagues, of our population and their requirements, excuse me, and their needs. What we're attempting to do with some of the schemes that we're promoting and actively involved in is really sort of, push the parameters of design, so that it's not just, for example, that there's a dwelling unit which meets the sort of standards. It should exceed the standards, and actually the public realm. When Andy was talking about public realm, the public realm around the development actually sort of, really works, for those local residents. And I think increasingly as a society, we're becoming aware of a range of needs that go way beyond just physical disability and really, the needs of people as they grow older in our communities.
Great stuff. Thanks very much. If anyone else would like to pick up on that as we develop the conversation, feel free. But I'm going to throw in another question now, and we've got one here from an anonymous attendee, which is always very ominous. But I don't think in this case the reality is particularly mischievous. Seeing as working from home is here to stay, seemingly, how much of an influx are you expecting or hoping for as people realise they don't have to live in the big cities anymore? So what kind of population growth are we talking about? Andy, you and I have spoken about this in the past. Would you like to pick up on that?
Yeah, I think we have a great deal of outflows. So if we go pre-pandemic, we had a lot of outflows to London, Brighton, and interestingly Winchester for some reason. But I think we are expecting, and we're already seeing, with our colleagues from Network Rail, a reduction in obviously commuting patterns. That can only help our places in terms of the economic drive into our town centres and our secondary shopping areas. But I think it's our, I suppose, role, or partly our role, to actually make sure that those experiences are as good as they can be. To make sure that people who stay here are actually getting a good experience. Just picking up on the commuting as well, Toby, we have seen, again, post-lockdown, a number of flexible workspace operators who have been approaching us a great deal, nicely aggressively, in terms of coming into our place and saying, what's available in terms of, creating flexible office spaces. And equally, we're also seeing a few companies contact us for satellite provision, i.e., coming out of London or Bristol, wherever it is, and actually saying we want a base on the south coast. So I think it's a combination of, supporting, I suppose, people here, but equally, I think there's a real provision starting to flow through in terms of those flexible workspace operators. We've already got one in the town. But I think there's room for manoeuvre for a lot more. And again, we'll be more than happy to listen to anyone who's got ideas around that.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot. And David Hutt at Glees, I hope that's answered your question as well. There's a question here from Simon Matthews about the government's next round of land release fund, which I'm guessing would be something for Martin to have a go at. £20 million available to unlock smaller housing sites, around 100 units, up to £1.5 million per site. Is Worthing Borough Council considering bidding for this round by the 12th of November deadline?
Yeah, absolutely. Keir may want to sort of come in here. I think he's indicating, but our standard answer, Toby and Simon, is yes. You know, I think we picked up in our introduction. You know, we've developed a sort of bidding culture. You know, born out of success. Dan sort of certainly mentioned, you know, our relationship with the coastal capital LEP. We've been incredibly supportive around our development agenda in Worthing. They usually send a sort of strong signal when government is about to do this sort of thing, and we put our hand firmly in the air. So can I pass to Keir?
Yeah, if I can jump in briefly on that one, because I think it's a really good question. And the point about 20 million from Land Release Fund, I think it's worth bidding on, but it's not a huge amount of money. What I think is really, really great though, is just to point out the work that Andy and his team have done over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So I think we totaled up recently that we pulled in £32 million worth of government and grant funding over the last 5 years into Aider and Worthing. That's made up of HE funding for infrastructure, just shy of £21 million worth of LGF funding coming through the LEP. It's gone through one public estate funding. So not only are we going to bid, frankly, we do really well when we do bid. And we brought in a lot of value and a lot of investment into the area from that. We have a specific investment officer role in the council whose job is out there to look for capital funding opportunities coming out of government, to put together bids and to really shape them up into being something that is going to be successful. There's definitely a knack to these bids, and I think we've learned that knack over 4 or 5 years. And that amount of money that we brought in to help unlock sites, to bring opportunities forward. For instance, that health centre I spoke about earlier was funded out of one public estate funding. We really know how to do this. We know that, the kind of trick to it. And anytime these funding opportunities come along, we're always front of the queue, trying to get some money in, trying to use the opportunities that come out of government, because frankly, that's what they're there for. It's a place hungry for opportunities, and anything we can get that's going to help us along, we absolutely bid on it.
Do you want to pick up also on George Farley's question about procurement routes? I mean, we both sort of touched on it, and I highlighted it, but just to go, he's asking, you know, land sale, land retention with procurement to builder, JV, procurement to developer. What's your sort of preferred route?
So I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. Fundamentally, property is a people business. You work with people, and how we want to act is we want to understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve out of a site. We want to build a relationship with the people who we're working with. Very frankly, I want to be able to shove the contract into a drawer and really only refer to it when a massive problem arises. I want to have that relationship with people, and not for that relationship to be founded on a contract first and relationship later. I want that relationship and that working rapport first, and then the contract is there to make everyone feel safe and to make our solicitors and lawyers and all those people know that everything is nice and safe. In terms of how we do it, I don't think there's one specific way. We have examples of everything, where we've done some direct delivery ourselves, where we've worked on land deals, we've worked on land pooling and promotion agreements. We have done some OJU where it's necessary. I'm not saying it's the best way of doing things, but you know, sometimes it is the only right opportunity and the right way to bring something forward. But it is all about working with partners who understand our approach, who understand what we're trying to do, and understand the different ways that the council can unlock value. So it's understanding, based on your business model, based on what you're trying to do with a site, whether you're just trying to develop those homes for sale, whether you're trying to do something that you want to hold or maybe partially hold. For instance, on Union Place, we might want to hold that hotel as an investment. And the other thing is around more kind of interesting funding models around income strips and that kind of stuff. There's different approaches for different sites based on what we're trying to get out of the site. We've got a great legal team. We've got a great history of bringing in the right legal advice as well. So all of those models are deliverable. It's just about the right type, the right approach for the development that we're trying to achieve. I was a bit flippant about OJU earlier, but I'm really honest. It's really time consuming. It really kind of gets you bogged down in the technicals of a contract rather than working and understanding what people are trying to achieve. And it comes back to that point, property is a people business. You got to bring the people with you. And the contract is there to support the relationship, not the other way around.
Great stuff, and some nodding from Russell in the background there, and a very pragmatic approach. Martin, did you want to add anything to that?
I think Cian said it all there. I think it's really practicality. Is the key. And as much as anything, demonstrating a willingness to discuss the route forward. So we've worked with some great partners in recent years. We were introduced by Coastal Capital to London and Continental Railways, not as a developer, but as a sort of partner, to actually sort of make sure that, we're finding the right way in to select developers and indeed work with partners on our sites, as of course Russell was illustrating there. So yeah, we are agnostic to an extent about the route. Let's find a way through, as Cian indicates.
Great stuff. Thanks very much indeed, Martin. Now, another question from the great David Hutt at Gleeds, my old friend. David's asking, has the council signed up to the climate crisis, and do you all see this as a way of differentiating the town and wider area from elsewhere? And I think that relates to another question that's been asked around flood risk, which is the great sort of elephant in the room with any sort of coastal development. Councillor Humphreys, Dan, would you like to take that on?
Yeah, I'm very happy to, and yes, you're right. The two link in. So quickly on the flood risk, on the rising sea levels, we obviously work with the Environment Agency, other bodies, and our neighbours on sea defences, flood defences, and that is an ongoing piece of work that we do. In terms, and so we are confident that unlike some other parts of the country, that we do have a plan in there to cope with rising sea levels, and I think insurers and others are all very satisfied with what we're doing in that regard. With regards to the climate crisis itself and the declaration of a climate crisis, yes, Worthing Borough Council, I think, was one of the first actually to declare a climate crisis. Does that differentiate us? No, because everybody's doing it now. So every council in the country virtually now has declared a climate crisis. What I do think will differentiate us, and will differentiate us in terms of people's perception of Worthing, is that we are really genuinely cracking on and doing something about it. We do have a carbon reduction plan for the council and our assets. We do have a plan that's evolving with the public in the town. We are holding virtually by Zoom, like we're doing today, citizens assembly on the stuff we're doing on the climate, and we do have some quite big work in train, some plans in train with the government about things like carbon sequestration, about shifting over to different modes of transport that will place less of a strain in terms of generating carbon. So where I think we will be able to differentiate and change people's perceptions further is by actually delivering some real action in this regard, and being again one of those leading places and councils to being distinct in delivering some real action to achieve those net zeros, both for the councils by 2030 and the place itself shortly after.
Great stuff. Thanks very much indeed, Dan. And completely coincidentally, we're involved in another organisation that is making some extraordinary moves, bold moves in terms of carbon reduction, and that is in fact Wilmot Dixon, by coincidence. And next Tuesday they're going to unveil a brand new programme, a really bold and exciting programme, and you're all welcome to join that webinar on Tuesday and find out the meat of what they're planning. And you can find out more through our website at threefox.co.uk. But right now, our council has been extraordinarily generous with its time. I'm going to launch our last poll, which is going to be to find out whether or not you'd like to take up the opportunity of having a meeting with them. And while you answer that question, I'm going to thank our panel. They've been fantastically outgoing, and that was reflected, I think, in the last poll, where 84% of our viewers said that the webinar today had improved their perception of Worthing as a place to invest. So hats off to you, panel. You've convinced our viewers, and you know, why wouldn't they be investing here? Is there anyone out there in Zoomland who isn't convinced that it's time for Worthing? We've already marked it out ourselves, as a place that was willing to turn your ambitions into mutually rewarding and lasting development. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, panel, for validating our confidence in Worthing. Thank you, Councillor Daniel Humphreys, leader of Worthing Borough Council. Thank you, Martin Randall, Director for the Economy. Thank you, Andy Willems, Head of Place and Economy. And thank you, Cian Cronin, Head of Major Projects and Investment. And of course, thank you, Russell Miller, Director at Wilmot Dixon, our sponsor, without whose generosity this session wouldn't have been possible at all. Now, thank you. Of course, it goes without saying, but let's say it. Thank you, viewers, for taking the time to find out about development opportunities in Worthing. You're all really busy and you've all got a lot to do, so we appreciate your attention for the last hour. We hope we've whetted your appetite, and we look forward to helping you connect with the council to get conversations started, to stimulate development and to help get our economy back on its feet. The recording of this session is going to be available on Sitematch365.com shortly. And there's just time to remind you that I will be back next Thursday at 11 AM on the Voice of Authority with architect HTA Design and Dr. Janice Morfitt to ask councils building homes, what next? You can visit the voiceofauthority.co.uk to register for that. But in the meantime, from Worthing, from me and from everyone at Three Fox, good afternoon.